if I were a good friend of God and I knew the right prayers, I would have all this suffering fixed and all the, all this, the people that are living in poverty, etc. I have all that fixed. And the thing is, that's not at all what Leibniz is talking about. That's all part of the way this, this universe behaves. Everybody lives a life that, ends in death. That's not something you can fix. That's part of the way it works, right? You couldn't just make everybody live forever. In fact, when we do that, you end up with riots in France because they have to increase the age that you can retire. Nobody seems to be happy about that. Well, actually, the news focuses on the 5% that are protesting all of that. There's probably about 95% that get it. We have to, etc. You get the idea. That's not what Leibniz is talking about. So what is Leibniz talking about? Well, let me go to my notes and give you an overview of Leibniz's positions. He's neat as a person, considered by many to be the greatest genius that Germany ever had. He was just like 4 or 5 years old in his father's library, where when he taught himself how to read Greek, Hebrew, and other languages, because his father had a library that was full of all of those. So he started learning all of these different languages, ended up going to college at a very young age, ended up graduating, and the college that he was going to for law thought, we really can't give him his degree yet, he's too young. And so another university said, hey, come over here, we'll give you a degree, even though you're so young. And in fact, he got his degree really quite young. I think it was like 16, something like that. And they wanted him to teach. And he said, nah. He wanted to go out and have fun and learn more stuff in Paris and things like that. So he ended up working for the Duke. The Duke, by the way, that would eventually become, I think it was Brandenburg, that would eventually become George of England. But in any case, he ended up going to Paris and studying with a lot of the Parisians, and he also traveled to England, where he visited the Royal Society. And by the way, he knows Sir Isaac Newton. And I don't know, does anybody want either of these, or are these just show and tell items? I don't know if you eat. These are Leibniz crackers, and these are Fig Newtons. I don't know. Sir Isaac Newton? It's even spelled the same way. But at least you'll remember, right? That I'm juxtaposing the two of them, so that's kind of cool. In any case, just a child prodigy, learns lots of stuff, realizes that mathematics needs something, because the kinds of problems that they're trying to solve have gotten to the point where you need a new system to deal with functions, or what he'll call functions. And so he and Sir Isaac Newton, who's a little bit older than him, so if we look at Leibniz, he's born in 1646 and dies, where is this? Does he die? He died. Okay, so 1716. I figured, it's not like Lao Tzu, supposed to still be alive wandering around China somewhere, after thousands of years.
Or, what's his name? Tupac?
Tupac?
Yeah.
What Tupac?
Yeah. There's like a conspiracy that he's in Cuba, right? Is that?
Didn't he get shot?
Yeah.
A lot of times, yeah.
Lots of times, yeah. Oh, shoot me again.
So if he was on my that's a pretending deal for
That's right. Somebody's doing Tupac as a philosopher, I think. But so in any case, so notice they're calling him a polymath. Poly means lots of different things, right? And math, by the way, in Greek means knowledge, right? So mathematikos is like a person who knows things. Mathematician, philosopher, scientist, diplomat. But he invents a form of calculus that is referred to as calculus. Sir Isaac Newton gives us this is a really cool book if you're into this stuff. I recommend it. The Calculus Wars. Newton, Leibniz, and the greatest mathematical clash of all time. Not so much a clash. Maybe. Depends on your interpretation of it. What's fun about this whole thing was that at the time, coming up with a new thing was something that people tried to keep secret. They didn't want to share it. You know, today, if you think about the way science works, people are as much a rush as possible to figure out that something might be a new idea and to get it out there, to get a patent on it or to become famous for writing about it, you know, any of that kind of stuff. Although, you look at those kinds of technical papers today, there's usually about 5 to 15 different names of all the people that were part of the paper that tends to be only about 2 or 3 pages long, depending on how long it is. But they're in a rush to become famous for this new idea and to get that idea out there so that everyone can work with that new idea so that we can end up with ChatGPT-4, right? It's not even been a year that we've had ChatGPT and now we're up to 4 already, right? It's kind of crazy. But they're writing back and forth to one another and saying, oh, I've got an idea, a method that works to do this, ha-ha, but it doesn't say what it is. And Newton writes back, I've got a method that does that too, ha-ha. You know, and they keep writing back, teasing one another, but at the same time not saying what it is that they've figured out. And yet, you know, in retrospect, when we go back, by the way, this is pretty important socially. If you're in England, Sir Isaac Newton is the person to talk about with great praise, right? Don't mention Leibniz. But if you're in France or Germany, it's Leibniz all the way. You know, that's just kind of one of those things. They're proud of Leibniz, and the British, of course, are very proud of Sir Isaac Newton. And by the way, I think Sir Isaac Newton is the one that gives us the line, if I have seen farther, it's because I've stood on the shoulders of giants. You ever heard that expression? Yeah. And you try to figure out, well, which giants was he talking about? Well, I went to ChatGPT and asked it, and it says Galileo and Kepler were the giants that he was standing on the shoulders of. Yes.
He also drawn upon heavy inspiration from a lot of ancient Greek mathematicians who were discovering the ideas of calculus. So it wasn't from scratch that he was like, I'm gonna do calculus now.
Yeah, nobody really comes up with new stuff like this from scratch.
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting. I had one friend I was arguing with just the other day because he hates it when I, do you have a point of view about this? Whatever, item X, right? And I'm like, well, these people think this, and these people think this. And he said, yeah, but what do you think? Well, these people think this, and these people think this. Well, which one do you think is right? And that befuddles me, because I'm like, what do you mean? These people think this, and these people think this. From their point of view, they're right. From their point of view, they're right. And that's my point of view, that these people have this point of view, and these people have this point of view. And, well, you can't disagree with the math. And I'm like, something wrong with that argument. Because, okay, when you're within a particular context, the math is solid, right? 1 + 1 = 2. But the thing is, if you're talking geometry, right, and we're talking triangles, right? That's Euclidean geometry. You can have triangles in Euclidean geometry. But, and help me if I screw this up, because I'm not a math person, but if you go to hyperbolic geometry, there are no triangles, because there are no right angles, because it's curved spaces, and you can't have right angles in a curved space, right? And that's traced back to Euclid's 5th proposition, where he says, well, I have the device right here. You go this way. 5th. Oh. Do I want the proposition or postulate? No, I want the proposition. That's not the one I want. Maybe it's postulate.
It is the one you want, it's just in very annoying language.
Do I have to go further down? The one I want is parallel lines never cross.
Yeah, that's that.
That is that one? Where is it?
Yeah, but it's a proof of it,
Okay.
so it's not in
Okay. Well,
very understandable language.
but the idea, of course, is Euclid gives us, thought it was a proposition.
I usually hear them referred to as axioms. Because you
I
can't.
think, yeah, maybe that is it.
Yeah.
Let me go to 5th axiom. But I remember it being the 5th. Yeah, that's the one. Oh, now they're calling it a postulate. 5th postulate, because it's the 5th postulate in the elements, is it, etc. If a line segment intersects 2 straight lines forming 2 interior angles on the same side that are less than 2 right angles, then the 2 lines, remember, this was in Greek, right? If extended indefinitely, meet on that side on which the angles sum to less than, well, okay. It still doesn't look like, but the argument I've heard is that 2 parallel lines in a Euclidean geometry, is they're parallel, they never cross. But if you're in a curved space, the one I like to use, even though I understand it's not really the right example for this, is how the lines on the planet all merge at the poles, right? So in a sense, we think of those as parallel lines, but when you travel all the way up to the poles, they all end up meeting at the North Pole and the South Pole, right? Because the Earth is curved, and so even though those lines are parallel, they actually meet. Is that a good example of?
Yes. There's a certain qualifier with hyperbolic geometry. You're usually grabbing things on a sphere, and the Earth is in a sphere. It's an oblate spheroid. So you're right in how you're using it.
I'm
but
pretty just sloppy.
yeah, if I was a nerd, I would correct you.
Yes.
Which I just did, so I'm a nerd.
That's good. That's good though, because we need nerds. Nerds actually are the ones that get us places.
I was on an online dictionary. This is really off topic.
You're allowed to do this.
This was, but anyways, I was trying to see what the difference is between nerd, geeks, and dorks. And the word of the day was a type of triggerfish that I can't even pronounce because it's a funny word. Anyways, yeah, that just reminded me of that time.
By the way, I forgot to give you a trigger warning before I played that song from Candide. I don't know if that
Yeah,
harmed
violins scare
anybody.
me.
Pardon?
I said, yeah, violins scare me. There's so many of them too.
Yeah, violins. They can, too much violins can, be a bad thing. Oh, okay. So this is just fun. So Sir Isaac Newton. Theoretically, he's the one that gives us gravity, which just is Latin for heavy. Gravitas. Right? And it doesn't just mean heavy, but it can also mean heavy, that kind of heavy, right? Yes, that makes sense? Okay.